Today's collectible spot, we're having a look at the character Doctor Who, the Flesh Goo Pod. Contains inside slimy goo with random flesh parts, or the flesh parts. Now, from first glance, looks like the container that you get it in is that of a TARDIS. Inside, however, this is what confuses me a little bit. It looks like it says collect all the parts, indicating that only one part is available per Goo Pod. I can tell you right off the bat, that's really, really bad marketing. Also, the fact that Spot paid $16.99 for this, ludicrous in itself, perhaps. Spot picked up this for $16.99, and when I picked this up, there was only 2 available. There were only 2 left. So if I'm looking at this right, and I do a little bit of deducing, I'm going to deduce that one of these parts is in each container of goo. So the poor child that wants to get a Doctor Who inside of this is ultimately going to get only an arm. Only a leg, only a head. And I really don't know the whole purpose of that. Perhaps it has something to do with an episode of, well, it says The Flesh Goo Pod. Maybe there was an episode called The Flesh where it was just chunks of Doctor Who. Who really would want to collect just parts of Doctor Who? Maybe if you could put them together, and maybe that's what they can do. Maybe they don't do that. Maybe you just get necessarily a limb, a head, an arm, a leg. I really don't know. It makes no sense to me. What does make sense to me, though, is you can go to www.character/online.co.uk to check out more from the good folks at Character Options Limited. This whole situation has me perplexed. Let's solve this perplexity right away. I'm going to bring in a knife. I got Hank here. I'm just going to cut the plastic on the side of this. What? Yes, I know the Goo Pod was way too expensive. Spot should have never spent that money. It just worked itself out that Spot was returning something anyways to this said store. Oh, I can't get the plastic off. Spot was only going to return something to the store anyways, and he had a credit, so that probably would have caused me to spend more on something like this than what I would have. $16.99 for a pod of goo. That's expensive, even by goo standards, and I've been quite a connoisseur of goo, but still, that is a lot in my book. Yeah, you know what? I'm looking at this. That looks like a kid with some goo and an arm in the middle. Why? Slimy goo with random flesh parts. The flesh parts. I want to keep forgetting to add the. I'm going to open this up. And inside, we've got all this goo everywhere. Some goo at the top of the TARDIS lid. Put that back in there. Want to keep all the goo together. Anyways, let's look inside. I'm sure somebody's keeping tabs of how many times I'm going to say goo. This slime, there you go. This slime inside is of it's almost like a milk-like consistency. It almost looks like condensed milk if I was to play with condensed milk as slime. Oh, okay, so we get 2 limbs. There's 2 pieces in here. I get a leg, which is covered in slime. Let's see if I can get the slime off here, and then we will look at the individual parts later. Okay, there is a leg. I'm going to use the lid. The lid has come into handy. Come into handy. I don't know. Spot's looking at slime. He's not really talking right about now. There's an arm. There's another arm right there. Is there anything else? Anything else in this slimy goo? No, there's not. I got 3 limbs. 3. Okay, as for slime, it's about the consistency of... It's a little bit denser than regular slime. I would say it's probably more like a pizza dough. How's that for a comparison? A pizza dough. Just like knead it, spin it around, make a pizza pie. No, you don't want to do that. The slime is not bad. I'm going to put that back in the TARDIS, watch it disappear. Okay, and let's have a look at the parts. Now again, I don't watch the newer Doctor Who, so I have no idea what the flesh is about. Maybe it's an episode where Doctor Who is just turned into pieces of himself. But really, from my logic of thinking, I don't know why you would market anything towards somebody, perhaps as a diehard collectible of Doctor Who things, sure. Sure, they may look at this and say, all right, yes, episode reimagined and interpreted through slimy goo. Okay, that's so cool. I'm going to get myself a leg. I'm going to get myself an arm. And I'm going to get myself another arm. But really, any other collector out there, who is going to buy, especially for what I paid for it, who's going to buy a container that contains just flesh parts? I ask you this, my friends, once you get this out of container and you just have this sitting on your shelf, ask yourself this: how many people are going to go into your room or wherever you stage your collectibles and look at this and think to themselves, oh, you got the flesh parts of Doctor Who, don't you? No, they're not. They're going to say, what happened to your figure? Did your dog chew off the rest of the action figure? It's like all gnawed away. I don't get it. I really don't get it. Consider me somebody who buys into a whole novelty of collectibles, and sometimes even the weirdest of collectibles, Spot can kind of challenge and justify it by saying, yeah, okay, you know what, I understand, sure, all right, that works, but I really can't justify just a pile of goo featuring body parts inside. This is ludicrous. Even if it's based on an episode which Spot, I'm sure, knows that probably is true, but I still can't. It makes no sense to me. It makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. Would I get this? No, I wouldn't. I think this should just go into the time pod. Into the time pod. Oh my god, watch, the hate has now formed. I'm just going to put this back into the TARDIS. The Goo Pod. And I think I'm going to send it back in time to when somebody sat at a boardroom table and said, hey, let's make a collectible where it's just a bunch of goo with parts inside. Well, do the kids get to put it together? No, they just have loose Doctor Who parts. That sounds ludicrous. Sounds like a good idea? It sounds like a good idea. I'm going to send this back in time and just say, bad idea, guys. Really, really bad idea. Today's collectible spot, we're having a look at utter disappointment. We were looking at the Doctor Who, The Flesh, Goo Pod. Thanks for watching, guys. Certainly stick around. Spot's got more collectible spots heading your way. See you guys next time. Woo!